And here I thought it was going to be a slow news day, but it is anything but. In fact, at the last minute, I switched out these two last stories. I had smaller stories ready to go, but then the comic book genre continued to deliver. So thank you everybody for joining me for today's live stream. We have some really interesting things to discuss. Hazel, I'm glad you're almost done with your work day. We're going to talk about these three things. Please try to keep your questions and comments to the story at hand. But then, of course, as always, at the end of the stream, you can ask me anything that you would like. X-Men Superfan, you're always so generous. I really appreciate it. You too, Dancing Dog 60. Chico, I'm glad we're keeping you company on the way to the airport. I love being a part of your lives. Okay, and thank you for being a part of mine, by the way. All right, so let's get started. We have some really interesting things to discuss. Look, down, back, forward attack is on the beach. That's fantastic. And Aya just got a membership. I love it. Thanks again, Dancing Dog 60. Okay, here we go. So the biggest story of the day, bigger than Doctor Doom and Superman, is what's going on with Paramount Pictures. Please be careful about the comments you're sending right now, because I got to be able to get through the stories, okay? But of course, always, as always, talk amongst yourselves. Alrighty, so story number one. Boop! Oh my God, horrified Boop. So it looks like there is a very strong chance. This was a rumor a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, that would be horrible. But it looks like it might actually happen. Paramount looks like it might actually be buying Warner Brothers. So, Michael, so generous. Thank you. Thank you so much. So that's just shocking. Now, interestingly enough, yes, you did miss a stream yesterday, Oliver. Yesterday, we talked about the fact that Larry Ellison, that's the dude on the left, Papa Ellison, surpassed Elon Musk to become the wealthiest man in the world. And what did he do? He bought his son a movie studio, David Ellison. However, it looks like he's not done in a shopping spree just yet. He's putting Bob Iger's shopping spree over at Disney to shame, because it looks like Larry Ellison might next purchase Warner Brothers. So let's talk about that. I have a couple of notes here. So Warner Brothers, the New York Times, everybody's jumping on this story. So the New York Times clarified that Warner Brothers Discovery is worth $41 billion. However, it has $35 billion in debt. It's still carrying that around since the AT&T days. That's how long Warner Brothers has been in trouble. But not to worry, because Larry Ellison is worth almost $400 billion. That's nuts. So he can afford to, he's one of the few people probably who can afford to make the purchase. Now, it would be really bad for the movie business if this were to happen. So the reason it would be bad is for a couple of things. Well, I agree, Ben 10. Warner Brothers is a part of cinema history. Would anybody be working to protect that? The Fox lot was basically demolished when Disney purchased it. The Fox lot was historic. It was a beautiful place. I was there right before it was purchased. It was such a cool place to be. The Warner Brothers lot is iconic. But Paramount is as well, but why can't we have multiple iconic lots? So there will be a lack of places to pitch. If you want to make a movie, you used to be able to go to a couple of places. You can't anymore. You wouldn't be able to anymore. There would be a lack of places to pitch. So I think that would be a real problem. A lack of creative executives to hear your pitch. But then that also works. That leads off to the other issue, layoffs. Paramount is about to lay off a ton of people because of the Skydance Ellison purchase. And they'd probably lay off even more people if they were to purchase Warner Brothers, because there's significant overlap. You have people doing, that's right, Mystic, lots of duplicate jobs. And there's nowhere for these people to go. So people who dreamed of working in entertainment and put careers together there, and, where do you go? There's the skill set and the connections aren't going to apply to another industry so easily. Then It seems that they can do this pretty easily because it's being reported that because Warner Brothers doesn't have a television network, there's no broadcast rights to have to settle with the government. It is a huge merger. It would be combining two giant companies, so the government would probably have to give its blessing. Although the Ellisons are already getting along just dandy with the Trump administration because they just made a bunch of promises about the Paramount purchase, making CBS more conservative. By the way, they would now own CBS News and CNN. But also, don't forget that Trump hates Hollywood because Hollywood, was not supportive of him. And interestingly, Obama is doing quite well here. The Obamas are doing very well in Hollywood after his presidency. And so I think Donald Trump wants to just see the whole place burn. So he certainly doesn't care, especially if he's getting kickbacks or they're looking out for him. I mean, he would benefit. So he has no interest in saving Hollywood. I mean, look what he's doing to the Kennedy Center, for Pete's sake. Now, yes, as many of you pointed out, Disney already did this. That's true. Disney did this with Fox, and it was horrible. It was horrible, but they've created such a large company that it's hard for other studios to compete. And that's why you're seeing a lot of the studios maybe get together so that they can scale up to be competitive with Disney Fox. Although I got to tell you, Warner Brothers is pretty competitive this year, and that's as is. But yes, Disney, Fox, but I have to tell you, the Fox lot, not what it once was. Fox doesn't really make any movies anymore except for the ones that were already in development. I mean, there are Fox franchises that are continuing on that have actually, as Danny pointed out, Disney's done a great job with those franchises, to be fair. But there were tons of layoffs, lots and lots and lots of layoffs. Very, very bad. A lot of people at Fox lost their job, and, a lot of them are still in the wind or haven't really settled in a good place. So, Disney Fox is the model, both good and bad. But yeah, Disney started this, and everybody's trying to catch up and make lots of money. So that's the next thing. David Zaslav swooped in with Discovery. Zaslav used to work at NBC Universal back in the day before he took over the Discovery Company, Discovery Networks. And Warner Brothers had been purchased by AT&T, but they were not doing well with the company. There was tremendous debt. The Snyderverse scandal was really a headache for them. They were doing really poorly with the ownership, and they were in tremendous debt that was really hurting the AT&T company. So they infamously sold it to Zazie. And at the time, I told you that the directive was to flip it, that Zazie came in there with the goal of flipping this company. He was going to, of course, improve it, but only because of the goal of flipping it down the line. Just like when you buy a house, of course, you make some improvements because you're looking to raise the price when you resell it. And by the way, while AT&T might have sold to Discovery, AT&T and John Stankey himself, I believe, have significant stock ownership still in Warner Brothers Discovery. So, it's looking like they're going to, when you buy a company through stock, you offer a pretty penny for those stocks. So it looks like AT&T and John Stankey would make a considerable amount of money, as would David Zaslav, off of such an acquisition. So that's their motivation. They would get even richer. I mean, David Zaslav's been getting incredible bonuses as is, but he would get a really big bonus. Hey, Loy, thank you very much. So that would be just amazing. Not so great for Hollywood and everybody else, but it would do very well there. Also, David Zaslav has said that he wants to, he had said he was going to split the company into Warner Brothers and Discovery again in the hopes of helping to sell it. And that, he said recently, he was set to do in April 2026. However, I want to specify, and that's right, Marco, these are all conservative individuals, which benefits the Trump administration. I would say they would classify themselves probably as moderates who lean conservative, but they have no issue in doing business, very positive business with the Trump administration. So, but however, I want to clarify that Paramount or the Ellisons are interested in buying all of Warner Brothers. They don't want to split it. They want everything. They want the Discovery networks. They want the cable. They want the whole shebang. So that's a huge purchase. And I don't even know. I mean, I get frustrated because I feel like they're really buying it for parts. You know, like they don't have any interest in any of the aspects to it, or the people who work there, they're buying it for parts. Although Warner Brothers has a lot of parts. That's right, they would own HBO, Danny. Paramount would own Paramount Plus and HBO. So HBO wouldn't become, it would go from being like the prestige streaming service of a studio to one of many prestige streaming services for a studio. That's nuts. That's right, Pi. Disney did buy Fox for parts. And I'm telling you, the reason Pi, you talk about this like that justifies it. I'm trying to point out that it was a disaster for the business and for people and for the arts. And so why would we want to do that again? Now, a lot of us had really wanted Universal to pick up Warner Brothers. Okay? Here we go. I think what was driving that was that Universal has the theme parks. I think that was the main driver of people looking for Warner Brothers to go to Universal. And Universal still seems to take somewhat pretty good care of their projects. And because they have theme parks, they seem to care a lot about branding and stuff like that. Whereas, that's true, Pi. Paramount could build a theme park, but that's going to take an extremely long time. Whereas Universal already has theme parks ready to go, and all they have to do is add on to them. Paramount could build a theme park, but it would require them to build the entire infrastructure of the company to make a theme park. Find the land, build it from scratch, just takes a very, very long time. You're looking at 10, 15 years. Maybe if they really prioritized it, 5 to 10 years. But, it's a lot. Wow, Pi, what do you work for the Ellisons or something? You're really Team Ellison here. Okay, all right. Sorry you left your job at Universal, Lucas. I hope you have exciting things ahead of you. Thank you, Drago. That's so generous of you. I really appreciate that. All right, so yes, I think that even though it would be another conglomerate, I think a lot of us still kind of wanted it to go to Universal, almost specifically for the theme park element. Now, a lot of people are like, hey, man, what does this mean for Gunn and DC? Well, I think, James Gunn gets along very well with David Zaslav. And I suspect, to be honest with you, he would get along extremely well with the Ellisons. I think James Gunn, I think he'd just really get along with those guys. I think that, but I would also say that the Ellisons are the kind of people who also demand results. So, Zazzy doesn't really care. Zazzy's not thinking long term, because he wanted to sell it. He's always wanted to sell it from day one. But I think the Ellisons, they've bought this for their family. They expect to own Paramount for generations, much the way the Redstones. Well, they only owned it for 2 generations over at the Redstones. But, I think it makes their family more, not only does it, their family couldn't be more successful, but I think it puts them more in the public eye. Like, nobody knew who the Ellisons were. It's a little bit like Travis Knight went over to Hollywood, and his father Phil Knight owned Nike, right? So once you get to Hollywood, everybody starts to know who you are, and I think that that's something that's very appealing to the Ellison family. To go from obscurity of owning Oracle to owning Paramount, for Pete's sake. They would become one of the biggest families in the United States and in the world. So I think there's a lot of what comes with that, a little bit like the Murdochs. So I do believe that James Gunn would get along very well with these individuals, but I think they would want to make sure that the DC performed as Marvel. Well, luckily, again, as I've said on Movie Math, James Gunn has really benefited from Marvel doing so poorly right now because it makes him look better. But they're gonna be like, you should be producing billion-dollar pictures, and if he's not producing billion-dollar pictures in the next, let's say, 2 to 3 years, then they might get a little. I gotta tell you, from what I've heard about Larry Ellison, I don't know that much about David. Hey, Elpidio, thank you. Larry Ellison is as cutthroat as they get. That guy is really aggressive. Look what he did to Colbert. That's interesting. Side note. People in Hollywood, it's a business of relationships, and nobody ever wants to upset the apple cart too much because you never know who you're going to run into down the line. Larry Ellison doesn't think that way. Larry Ellison he's the richest man in the world. He does not care. He feels he'll always win because he's the wealthiest man in the world. He just surpassed Elon Musk. And so, you would think, who on earth could get rid of The Late Show? It is a storied institution, not just for CBS, but in the landscape of television. And Larry Ellison basically got rid of it because he didn't. I think my theory is that he was upset not with what Colbert said about the Trump administration, but what he said about the Ellisons bribing the Trump administration. And don't mess with Larry Ellison, okay? He will just obliterate you. So I think that's a big part of what you're going to see here. I think you're going to see. And, to some degree, I think some fans might welcome that a little bit, because so often we get upset and we're like, how are these individuals allowed to stay in control of a franchise when they're not delivering? Larry Ellison would be somebody who would take care of that. His daughter did run Annapurna Pictures, Mystorian, and to just tell you what a tough SOB Larry Ellison is, when she didn't do a good job running it, he shuttered it. He could have just let her run it forever and just lose money. But he felt she wasn't doing a good job and it no longer exists, and he stopped funding it. I mean, he has almost $400 billion. He could have let her just make movies for fun. So he is a tough customer. He is a really tough customer. Like, wow. He is very vindictive. So it's going to be very interesting to see how, I didn't even think of that until you guys brought it up. All right, so, woohoo, be careful, everybody. Okay, so then let's take a look at the IP. What does he want? What has he just purchased? Let's take a look at his grab bag. So one of the reasons that that they feel that they need to buy some stuff is that Paramount is a little light on IP. This is what they've got. They've got Transformers, Star Trek, Mission Impossible, Top Gun. They're really in the Tom Cruise business, boy. Maybe, Tom Cruise just signed at Warner Brothers. Maybe he was a secret spy. Sonic the Hedgehog, Nickelodeon, which includes SpongeBob and the Airbender, which is about to go into the movie space. And that's right, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, G.I. Joe, Scream. They got a couple of other things in there. But, it's a little light. A little light. They don't have a lot of IP. By the way, one of the reasons that Skydance was able to buy Paramount and had the inside track was because Skydance funds, they're the financial backer for a number of these movies. All right, then here's what Warner Brothers owns. Oh my goodness, what a prize package. This is incredible. So the Ellisons would get control of DC, Harry Potter. They're going to love J.K. Rowling. I'm sure they agree with J.K. Rowling. So this would benefit J.K. Rowling substantially. Dune, Mortal Kombat. That's right. They'd be buying Warner Brothers games, which is considerable. Lord of the Rings, Wonka, which they've just revived. Beetlejuice, The Matrix. Oh, that's right. I forgot to add Game of Thrones. Thanks, Danny. Game of Thrones and HBO. The Matrix, Warner Brothers Horror, which is doing incredible right now. Turner Classic Movies, Looney Tunes. And this is just the movie divisions. I'm not even talking about the things they'd be buying from Discovery and the television networks. It's just absolutely incredible. This is just, it's huge. It is worth the price that it's being asked for. But I just feel like Warner Brothers, these things fit together really nicely. And I think that Warner Brothers has a beautiful identity. I think Warner Brothers has as strong an identity as Disney does. And it's very sad to me that it would be diluted by being owned by Paramount. If you ever go onto the Paramount Plus streaming service, it just looks like a junk drawer in the kitchen. It's just a mess. And you're like, I know what I want is in here somewhere. And hopefully it's on the front page, or else you're rummaging around looking for it. But whenever I go onto Disney Plus, well, Disney Plus is losing its identity a little bit too. But whenever I go onto HBO Max or, Disney Plus, it always really feels cozy. Peacock, I don't think Peacock's very well constructed either, to be honest with you. I think Peacock and Paramount Plus are really very poorly constructed streaming services with absolutely no identity. And it's sad to me to feel like maybe these places would, lose their identity. It's very scary. And there's nothing we can do about it. All right, does anybody have any questions or comments about this story before we get to the next story, the next two stories of the day? Deshaun, Prime Video is owned by Amazon, actually. Gee, I don't know if Netflix kind of has an identity. Ober, I don't think they'd cancel RuPaul's Drag Race because it makes a ton of money and wins a bunch of awards. Although it depends. I hope, if they say anything bad about the Ellisons, then that might be a different story. Brendan says, Grace, is it possible Warner Brothers could go back to being an independent company? No, they can't. They won't because Zazie doesn't want it to. Zaz, as I told you, I heard when Zazie came in, he was there to flip it. Hey, Maria, thanks. Oh, let's see here. What will it be named? I'm not sure. That's another, where will the Warner Brothers go? Will it just all fall under the Paramount umbrella and they'll get rid of the Warner Brothers name? That would be just really disgusting. Let's see here. Good Day says, why do you think others aren't offering a bid? Well, they might have been ready to offer a bid because Zazie was going to split it. Remember Zazie, I just told you, Zazie said in April of 2026 he was planning to split Warner Brothers into two to make it more desirable to purchase. However, the Ellisons are offering to swoop in right now. I mean, the stock is surging for Warner Brothers because people expect a buyout. The Ellisons want to buy it now, and they want to buy the whole enchilada. And so nobody else is going to, who else has that kind of money? I mean, Elon Musk sunk it all into X, so he doesn't have it. Universal, I don't know what Universal's going to do because Universal's not big enough. So Universal, if they didn't get Warner Brothers, they'd maybe have to partner with Apple or Amazon down the line, because then you just become too small. And, it's really a shame. It's a shame what the stock market has done to businesses because stocks is driving all of these decisions, the stock market and the value of the company on paper. Pi says, Disney falling to their... I don't think they're weeping right now. No. Pi, so emotional. Although you are the number one fan today on the stream. Let's see. Rainbow Nomad says, do you think this will actually happen? Yes, I do. I do. I think that the Ellisons are throwing around so much money. Just incredible amounts of cash. And the fact that he is the richest man in the world, I think they want to consolidate their empire. And the other reason I think it's going to happen is that they're trying to get in here and buy it before the split. So this is like a last minute purchase, like they're going to swoop in and buy it while they still can. So they don't have time to mull it over, If it doesn't happen in the next, if it doesn't happen by the end of the year, I don't think it's going to happen, but it should happen in the next month or so. I think things will move very quickly from here on out. Zazie wants to sell, the Ellisons want to buy. I think it will happen. I'm not sure what happened to Lauren Schuler Donner. I think she's still kicking around doing stuff, but she's not what she once was. Lee says, how much of a monopoly would Paramount have? Well, they would be equal to Disney Fox. And by the way, the Fox name just totally disappeared. I mean, occasionally they have something that says 20th Century. I mean, I guess the Murdochs are still using Fox. But I don't know if they would do WB Warner Paramount. I mean, it doesn't sound as good as Warner Brothers Studios. Warner Brothers Studios sounds so great. Remember the Warner Brothers Studio store? I sure do. I loved that place. I feel bad that it's gone. The Disney store isn't what it used to be either. What a time to be alive. But, all those things are gone. But that's just, it's like so bad for fans. I mean, it's like Hollywood was great, and then like the tech industry kind of messed it up, and now like the stock market's ruining it, and it's just turning out into being any other company with a product. Like where's the magic going to be? That's very scary. Oh, it's so sad. Let's see here. Maria, I'm sorry, your phone keeps freezing. Your phone might be freezing, Maria. Maybe it's overheating because you're number 3 on the leaderboard. I'm impressed. Let's see here. Pi, I don't know if what's the benefit to keeping Warner Brothers' identity intact? I mean, I hope the Ellisons value it. I mean, they don't even seem to value the Paramount identity because they slapped the Skydance name on it. Skydance is not a name that has any meaning to anybody. I mean, you just see it in front of a couple of movies sometimes, and you're like, oh, look at that. It's a crazy logo, man. All right, so Phil says people seriously underestimate how much Sony has due to their PlayStation division. Yeah, maybe that's why Sony's not trying to buy anything. Let's see here. Hey, Devin. Danny would like Apple to buy Warner Brothers. That would be great, but I don't think they want to buy the whole thing. You know, I think that if Zazie had been allowed to split it, you maybe would have competing bids. But nobody wants all of it. I mean, look at it. He had to split it because he had no offers. Zazie was like, nobody's making me an offer. I better break these up into 2 more digestible chunks. But Ellison came along like Galactus and said, I can swallow that thing. He's like, I got no gag reflex. Hand it over. Let's see here. I'm not sure if the Warner Brothers brand will disappear. I hope not. I hope that somebody over there values it. Pi says he's just having a good time, but he hopes that the content is still good. I mean, hopefully. We have no idea. I mean, all I'll tell you is that Skydance is real hit or miss as a production company. It's not like Skydance was churning out banger after banger. I mean, Skydance made a lot of crap. So that was one of the things that I think concerns me. I would not say that Skydance was some bastion of quality. Let's see here. CM says, what about the chances of a Uni-Sony merger? Unlikely, I think. Although, who knows? Anything appears. I mean, the problem is you have a conservative person at your company that can cozy up to the Trump administration. Let's see here. Yeah, Kyle, I heard they still have a lovely store on the studio lot. I had a friend who went there and bought a bunch of cool Superman stuff, which I heard was really awesome. I heard they have a permanent DC exhibit on the lot that you can go and visit. I haven't been there since after the pandemic, but that sounds just really cool. Let's see here. Dancing Dog 60, Trump won't last forever, but who will be the next president? What will be the next administration? Will it be, you don't know if that political party will continue to remain in power. That is, that's the overarching question. Let's see here. Pi, I didn't say this, there's a lot of conservative executives. Let's see here. Although Bob Iger, I think Bob Iger's been very smart, never to let anyone take a picture with Trump. Let's see here. All right, I think we're ready to go to the next story. Okay, we're just getting very political instead here. All right. Let's see. Story number 2. All righty. Story number 2. Let me get my arrow in place. Oh, this is a good one. Okay. Boop. Enter Doom. We're not sure, but let's talk about it. All right. So where did this image come from? Well, it came from an expo, I think it's a marketing expo in China. And Disney had a pavilion, and they stuck Doom up there. So you've got Buzz Lightyear, you've got Judy Hopps, you've got Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse looks funny. Let's look at Mickey Mouse. He's dressed like for sports. Let's see here. Yeah. What's Mickey wearing? That's hilarious. That's a really funny outfit on Mickey Mouse. Does he have like sunglasses? That's hilarious. All right. That just kind of goes to show you, I wouldn't put too much stock necessarily in this image, but let's discuss. Then they've got Spider-Man, Doom, and then Mandalorian and Grogu there at the end. So I do want to point out that this is extremely early, right? This movie is over a year away, and I think it's unlikely that they would reveal the costume this early. I think this is probably giving us some idea as to what's happening, but I think it's more likely that this is just generic Doom to tease the upcoming Avengers Doomsday movie, right? They're like, we got to put something up there. But I think they should have realized that everybody would be like, is that what Doom's going to look like? So I wouldn't say this is the final look necessarily, but it's an interesting kicking off point. Also, there are some other things that were revealed that were kind of cool that I want to go over. So that's the expo. Let's get a bigger version of Doom, just so you can see him. I like that he has like a smirk, even though he has apparently like a robot slit for his mouth, right? But yet it looks like he's smirking, so that's kind of funny. And yeah, I do agree that the chainmail is very cool. And he has like some kind of like Eastern European pattern on his suit. I mean, it looks really good. I'll just say it looks good. You know? I think it looks very nice. I mean, if he did look like that, everybody would be thrilled. All right, so I do feel that it's very comics accurate, which is nice, right? Like his face is covered too. Like here's Robert Downey Jr. in his, when they revealed that he'd be playing Doom. And everybody was like, you can't even keep the mask on for 5 seconds, man. I'm sure he will take the mask off a lot, okay? But, there he was at the event with like an old school, like makeshift Doom costume. But here's Doom in the comics. And, again, that looks pretty good. I think they got the posturing right. I think they got the attitude. I think it's very appealing. But here's where things got interesting. So when you went into the expo, they showed some kind of light show, right? Like, so someone took video of a light show that they were projecting over the Marvel booth. And they showed some interesting stuff. For instance, Doom wielded magic. What? Yeah, there he is, wielding some magic. And some people are saying that looks like the 10 rings in the middle there. Like whatever happened to that storyline? It'd be nice if they tied everything together, for Pete's sake. So yeah, it looks like green magic. So he's using his yeah, that's right, Ben. I'm getting there. So, they're using his gauntlets to maybe control the 10 rings or whatever, and he's using magic and science together. Remember, that's Doom's whole thing. He's science and magic. But yes, as many of you are pointing out, that puts him in competition with the Scarlet Witch and the witches of Agatha all along, with her red magic, and then, of course, Billy has Wiccan has blue, Agatha has purple, Rio, and Loki. There's Loki. They have green. Rio and Loki have green. We had pink, and then we also had yellow and orange. But yeah, Loki technically is a warlock, and so is Doom. But you're not supposed to share colors, really. So it's a little bit, him having green magic kind of eats a little bit into, I think, the Loki and Rio kind of situation. Although you already have the overlap with Loki and Rio already. But I thought that was interesting that they're all, again, this might just be some executive at Disney China who came up with this, but it's still very interesting. So yes, so the tease of the magic already is very interesting. All right, then they had something really cool happen. Out of this spinning circle that he was doing, he had a couple of logos come out. So there, first of all, they had him in his throne. Doom in his throne. Doom loves a good chair. All right, so they had him in his throne. And then they brought out a couple of logos, which were really cool. They brought out the Avengers logo. That spun out of the light show. The Fantastic Four, of course. Then X-Men. Oh, I like how they all fit in a circle. That was really cool. And then, nobody knows what this is. The guess is that maybe it's Wakanda. Wakanda getting its own circle, that would be very interesting as well. But these are the 4 symbols that spun out of this light show. So I thought that was pretty cool. I liked that a lot. And then, it looks like Wakanda, right? So let's see. We'll see what they decide to do. But then, even more interesting is that it looked like maybe there was a little bit of an Iron Man reference. Some people on the internet pointed that out. So, I'm pointing to that. All right, so look, you'll see here. What's going on here? So then you have the Iron Man symbols on the left, but on the right you have the things from the show, from the light show. And that green magic and circle would come together to create that thing on the lower right, which looks like some kind of magic symbol, but also has the shapes and the, geometry aspect to it of the arc reactor. So there's a theory that when when Robert Downey Jr. died, when Tony Stark sacrificed himself at the end of Avengers Endgame, potentially maybe he went to another. Oh yeah, runes. That's a great comparison. Again, magic and science together. But it could be his face. Remember, was horribly scarred after that. So there is some chance that this is him, or we'll see what they decide to do. But yeah, I think he's definitely a Tony Stark variant. I've been saying that since day one. He can't have the same face and not be a variant. It makes absolutely no sense. And we'll see how fans react to that. I know a lot of hardcore Doom fans are like, how dare you? But I mean, how many hardcore Doom fans are there? But let's see what they decide to do. But I think these are some pretty good teases. I particularly like the logos. I think those are really neat. So, does anybody have any questions or comments about this story? And again, we don't necessarily know if this is true or not. This is just something, this is just an advertisement that they came up with to promote merchandising at an expo in China. So we don't know if this is the official look. It seems a little bit too early for the official look, but still, I think it shouldn't be ignored. Nico says Endgame made $600 million in China. I feel like Disney wants them to. Oh, that's a good point, Nico. That's a great point. I think that's very true. And China is not loving Hollywood lately, so they're probably trying to set the ground really early. Let's see here. Oasis, let me go back and see if I can find your super chat here. Ireti says RDJ's Doom is not a great choice, mainly because he's too American. Yeah, that's a good point. That would have been interesting. Maybe they should have leaned into European. Oasis says, if in the UK, don't go out on Saturday. What are you talking? I mean, Oasis, I'm not sure how this correlates to the conversation we're having. All right, let's see here. Pi says, I think if RDJ was Victor, it would just cause more backlash, so I'm happy it seems to be a Tony Stark variant. Well, you and I are the only ones, Pi, who are okay with it. Ivan says, when do you think we'll expect the first official look or trailer? I suspect at Comic-Con. Because Avatar is a December release for this year, and they started promoting at the end of July. So I think they'll start promoting at Comic-Con next year. Comic-Con and D23 are back-to-back next year, so they can really make a big splash right there. Elpidio, I agree that it would be hard to replicate the success of Endgame, but I mean, No Way Home got to $2 billion, so I think the $2 billion club is really just what they're kind of looking for. Earth is Ghetto says, script isn't done. How is there a suit? Well, they've been filming. They're just still fiddling with the script, because Kevin Feige admitted he'll fiddle with the movie till he can't fiddle with it no more. And you can fiddle with the movie up to 2 weeks before release, basically. Zetus Lapidus says Larry Ellison looks like Mickey Rourke. He does kind of look like Mickey Rourke. That's good if they ever make a movie. Freddie, I mean, it's too late to choose somebody else to play Doom. I liked the Cillian Murphy idea that people were playing with. I think that would have done really well. I think people would have rallied behind Doom like you wouldn't have believed. If it was Cillian Murphy after Oppenheimer, I think people would have gone nuts. But I don't know if Cillian Murphy would have even done it. Stark Fox, I think the script was completed. They just decided they didn't like it. Or that maybe, I think in a more positive spin, I think the idea is that, and I'm not saying the script's not done, but that's what Rebecca Romaine said. And they just hired a new writer, that Rick and Morty guy, Michael Waldron, to work on it. I think they just maybe felt it could be better. Oh, Mystic says Pedro Pascal is Doom. Although, is he going to want to put another helmet on? I don't know. The helmet's a tough sell. I think there are a few actors who'd be willing to wear it all the time. No updates on Halle Berry, X-Men superfan, but it's going to be a real problem for that movie if Halle Berry isn't in it. That's right, Ben 10. I hope Famke Janssen's in there as well. They're a great duo. Oh, Lawson, you just got a diamond badge. I love it. Pie, I'm not so nervous about the Russos. I like the Russos quite a bit. I think that they know what they're doing in this space. Ricardo, I'd say they have announced everybody they're going to announce. I mean, we'd like a couple of surprises, wouldn't we? I mean, let's try to have some surprises, man. You know, that would be really fun. I mean, the MCU used to be able to surprise us. I didn't know who was going to get blipped at the end of Infinity War. I mean, we all suspected that Captain America would pick up Mjolnir, but nobody knew for sure. These things are ruined these days. And it robs us of that experience in the theater of being like, oh my God, it actually happened. You know, that's really a shame. I think we need to get back there. X-Men Superfan says, do you think they'll use the theme song from the cartoon for X-Men? Kevin Feige loves that thing, so probably. Jerome says, or maybe he'll save it for his own X-Men. These are the Fox X-Men. And then Jerome says, Doom used some of the 10 rings in Iron Man Armored Adventure so he could use them here. I think Doom could use anything he wants because he's Robert Downey Jr. Ian, I'm not sure what's going on with Vision Quest, but they were filming it. They've just done a very good job with set security. Antonio, Doom has never been Wanda's dad. In fact, they have a romantic background in some comics, or a flirtation at least. That's right, little dog too. Magneto is Wanda's dad. Pie, you guys got to remember the Russos are very good at Marvel. I think they know. I think they're good. They have a very strong business hat on. Hey, LP. Marco says, let's boop to the next story. I think we can boop. Yeah, I think we're ready to boop. Okay, and then we'll do the Q&A. So if you didn't get a question in there, you can ask me at the Q&A. All right. I got to close all these logos out. Hold on. All righty. Story number 3. Boom, baby! All right, so what's going on? More Man of Tomorrow news because James Gunn is doing interviews still to promote Peacemaker. And so everybody asks him about future projects and he's only too happy to oblige. So let's go over this. So it was announced, as you know, last week that they're making Man of Tomorrow, which for some reason James Gunn says is not Superman 2, even though it's the second movie in the Superman saga. It's Superman 2, man. Why do you got to make us go through this? All right, so I predicted, because as soon as I saw that, you know, the way Jim Lee drew this, and that Superman was holding that screwdriver, you know, kind of like a, hey, buddy, I got you, or, you know, I helped you build it, I was like, they're working together. And I was right. I was right, because James Gunn already confirmed it. He confirmed it on a Howard Stern interview. Now, I can't believe he confirmed that this early. This movie's over a year away. It comes out in July 2027. It's almost basically 2 years away. I don't understand why that was confirmed. You know, like, I don't know. I wouldn't have confirmed anything about the movie, you know, except maybe who the villain was going to be. But I don't know. Maybe that's what he'll wait on. So, yeah, and that's the thing. He can't talk about Batman because it's not his project. So he's just talking about his own stuff, man. Come on, dude. You know, so he confirmed it on Howard Stern. He said that Lex Luthor and Superman are going to team up to fight an even bigger threat. And he gave even a little bit more information. So here's Supes and Lex. I do think they look good together. And he said, I wish you would call it Superman 2, yeah. All right, so he said that it's going to be as much a Lex Luthor movie as it is a Superman movie. And that's why he's technically saying it's not a Superman film. It's going to be a two-hander. Instead of World's Finest, he's given us this. This continues to be the problem because he doesn't have a Batman. It's driving me crazy. So he's going to have them team up, and it's going to be as much a story about Lex Luthor as it is Superman because James Gunn says he relates a lot to Lex Luthor. And I got to say, so do I. So I mean, James Gunn and I have that in common. I love a good businessman, even if he's evil. But perhaps he's made Lex a little bit too evil. So let's discuss that. There he is with both of them on set. And he's like, let's keep doing this. I love it. All right, so obviously, bigger threat. That means you're going to have a really big villain coming in. So we're not going to do no Riddler stuff. We're going to do somebody big. So let's see who we got here. I did a poll earlier today, this morning, about this news. And I said, here are the 4 potential people I think that it could be. Oh yeah, Mystic, evil Supergirl would do a lot to sell this movie. But you can only do that if the villain is Darkseid, and I don't know if they want to go in that direction. So there's Brainiac, by far and away the most popular. As many people pointed out, nobody's done Brainiac on the big screen yet. So that would give James Gunn a lot of leeway. And it would also get a lot of attention for the project. So that's a great reason to choose Brainiac. And, you know, Brainiac, by the way, could come from Krypton. There's all different ways you can go with that. Maybe, you know, James Gunn will pick Brainiac and General Zod because he likes his movies crowded. In the animated series, Brainiac was the AI for Krypton. So you've got Brainiac, General Zod is the runner-up, followed by Darkseid, who is very heavily associated with Snyderverse, so I don't know if they do that. And then also Doomsday. I kind of like the idea of teaming up Brainiac and General Zod, although that does make the movie extremely crowded. Although it would give each of them someone to fight, now that I think about it. I like that. If you did that, okay, Superman could take on Zod, and Lex could take on Brainiac. So they're both bald, Brainiac and Lex. That'd be hilarious. So it kind of works to some degree. And we'll see. You know, James Gunn, again, he likes a crowded movie. It gives him a lot of characters to play with and play off of each other. So we'll see. Dane says, is this Holt's doing? Well, I think that Nicholas Holt's extremely charismatic, and I think he's a very ambitious person. So I'm sure he and James Gunn got along together extremely well, and we all know that James Gunn loves to support his friends. Right? Like, James Gunn is a really big person about, like, getting along with, you know, his own people and supporting them and, you know, giving them opportunities. Mexican Nacho, fusing Lex and Brainiac by the end of the movie is a very interesting idea. Or maybe he could team up with Brainiac instead. A lot of interesting things there. You know, I can see this coming together a little bit, you know? Now, does this mean, if they're going to team up together, that Lex Luthor is going to become an anti-hero? So there is a history for that in the All-Star Superman comic. When they first announced that they were doing Man of Tomorrow as a Superman-Lex Luthor team-up, I said that I felt that James Gunn would probably pull from the All-Star Superman comic, which he has admittedly said he absolutely adores, because they have some really great interactions with Clark Kent and Superman, both sides of Clark and Superman, interacting with Lex Luthor in prison. So that could be kind of interesting, and it's a little bit like Loki was turned into an anti-hero, right? Loki was turned into an anti-hero with the TVA. He became a good guy, kind of, right? But then some people are pointing out, well, what about what Lex Luthor did to Malik in Superman? You know, he executed somebody point blank. I think that is really going to, you know, Superman obviously isn't going to be able to totally get past that. But, you know, James Gunn is all about creating a dilemma or a threat that's so big that Superman will have to table his issue and work together. But then that would lead to another scene in Superman, All-Star Superman, where when Superman finally has an opening and, you know, I guess the threat is resolved, he really punches Lex Luthor because he just still deep down really hates him. So, you know, I could see it all tying together, you know, and that could be something interesting for David Cornsweet to play off of, having to work with someone that you truly detest and think is a despicable person. Although I don't know if James Gunn, I don't know. I think James Gunn has a cartoonish style, which I actually think works really nice for this property. But yet it does kind of lessen the impact of the truly horrible thing that Lex did. I mean, I read a quote where James Gunn said, if not for this execution, maybe you would be able to side with Lex. You know, maybe you would think that Lex had a point about protecting humanity against alien threat and being replaced. So then I don't know why James Gunn had him do it. You know, maybe it would have been better to keep it more of a question mark. as to who you side with. So we'll see what happens, but it is interesting to see this movie start to come together. And I appreciate that James Gunn is so loyal to the comics. It makes it more easy to discuss these things. But at the same time, I think it's way too early to be having these discussions. I mean, I'm happy to have them. But I just think he's really trying to promote Peacemaker. And I think he really wants DC to do well. Brian says, I was underwhelmed by how small and jokey the new Superman was, especially compared to the epic Snyderverse and DC animated movies. Well, that's just because, Gunn has, that's just the scope that Gunn has. Think about even the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. They seem small, even though they take place in outer space. But, I do think that's a problem, as I've brought up. The DC always had that grandeur, that epic grandeur that differentiated them from Marvel. So, and I think that Matt Reeves' Batman has that to a degree. But, we'll see. I mean, Superman did well. It didn't do great. It didn't do as well as I would have liked it to do, but it did extraordinarily well domestic. And also, it did way better than all the Marvel movies. So, I mean, that really skews the perception. Josh says Peacemaker Season 2 is leading directly to Man of Tomorrow, which makes sense. But wouldn't it lead directly to Supergirl? Right? Like, did the James Gunn projects in the DCU get preferential treatment over all the other ones? Ben 10, I don't see Brad Pitt working with James Gunn. I don't think that they want to pay Brad Pitt's fee, to be honest with you. I think he's too expensive, and I think that Brad Pitt doesn't want to do something like that. Danny says, who should play Brainiac? I would love it to be Michael Fassbender, because he essentially already played Brainiac in the Alien franchise. It's going to be somebody that James Gunn knows and gets along very well with. Let's see here. X-Men Superfan says, what characters would you want to see in Man of Tomorrow? I like the idea, I think that I would like to explore what's going on with Krypton through Brainiac and Zod. That, to me, would be very interesting. So let's see. I do like the idea of Livewire or Killer Frost. I would love to get those female villains in there. But I don't know how crowded the movie should be. Pie, we'll see when Wonder Woman eventually gets here. I mean, they're working on her movie as we speak, the script. Who asked that? Sneaky, Clayface is a part of the Gunverse, even though Matt Reeves is producing it. It doesn't make no sense. Steven says, wonder if James wants to cement a successful enough larger DC universe before Warner Bros. Gets bought and hopes he doesn't get another reboot. Too late! This thing's going to probably be bought by the end of the year. I agree, Drago. There need to be other voices in the DC space. I'm not sure how long it'll take to get there, but I think it's going to be important to make it feel more real. Ulysses says, would you prefer the green human-looking Brainiac or the robot one? That's a great question. I like the job that James Gunn has been doing. I mean, look, if it was a different director, they would want to maybe play around with stuff a little bit more, and they would make Brainiac maybe be a little bit more electronic. However, James Gunn is extremely loyal to the comics because he loves them, and you can't fault that. So I think he's going to look like he looks in the comics. Although Absolute Superman sure did a number on Brainiac, boy. Oasis, I would think it would take maybe a year or two for the merge to go into full effect. But before A Man of Tomorrow comes out. Emma says, what characters from the Suicide Squad, Creature Commandos, Superman, and Peacemaker did you like? Oh, that's too long a question to answer. I liked the Bride out of Creature Commandos a lot. And I liked Ratcatcher and the Suicide Squad. I always like Idris Elba, but I thought he was just playing Idris Elba. That's right, Mystic. This would be very similar to Vision. I do not think Dave Bautista would be in this movie. Certainly not as any of the characters that we're discussing. was that guy in Suicide Squad who played the guy with the brain that was exposed? That actor who played Doctor Who? I might watch him be Brainiac. Peter Capaldi. Thank you, Marco. I mean, that's the thing. You know, like, I think the best casting in Superman were not friends of James Gunn. David Corenswet, Rachel Brosnan, and Nicholas Hoult. Make some new friends, James Gunn. Make some new friends. You could have new friends. They don't have to all be your old friends, you know? Like, expand the friend circle. Meet some new people. All right, I think we're ready for the Q&A. All right. All righty. Boo, 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 boo. All righty. All righty then. There we go. Q&A. 10 minutes Q&A. Till an hour and 6 minutes. Let's see here. CM says, if Emperor's New Groove was remade, what about Sofia Vergara as Yzma? You know, that's actually pretty good casting. I would have told you that nobody could ever replace Eartha Kitt and play that role in live action. But I kind of like Sofia Vergara in the role. That's not a bad idea. Pi says, who would even run DC if Paramount reboots it? Well, hopefully they would just keep James Gunn, right? I don't know how much more the brand can take, but if they decided they didn't like him, then they would just hire a new executive to do it. Oh, you got a commemorative Odyssey ticket, Elpidio. That's exciting. That's very cool. You're like less than a year out now. Chico, I don't think that Margot Robbie is a part of James Gunn's friend group, but I think they get along. Let's see here. Tough Luck says, when will we get the Mando and Grogu trailer, Grace? With Tron 3? That seems a little early for a May release. I think you probably get it. Maybe you could get a teaser. Maybe you could get a teaser with maybe Avatar, The Last Airbender. But that still seems a little bit early, you know? Like, I think more likely to get it, you know, maybe for the Super Bowl? Disney loves to purchase a good Super Bowl spot. That's what I would say, the Super Bowl. Marsh, that's extremely generous of you. Thank you for everything that you do. I want to provide an update. My wife and I welcomed a baby girl thanks to IVF in May. And in July, oh, your cancer came back and I'm going through chemo. I'm very sorry to hear that. And this is when I'm able to catch up on your videos. Well, I'm glad we can lift your spirits and keep you company while you're doing that important treatment. And, you know, you've beat it before. And I'm so happy that you have welcomed a new member of your family. That's wonderful, Mars73. Let's see here. Jesus says, hey, Grace, how do you come up with great ideas for your videos? I'm constantly thinking about it. I'm a little slow. I'm slower on the uptake than I would like right now, but I'm working real hard on it. Let's see here. Psycho, I'm not saying Sofia Vergara is Eartha Kitt level, but I think she wouldn't embarrass herself. Catherine Hahn. I don't know about Catherine Hahn. You know, Emperor's New Groove is supposed to take place in South America, and I don't think Catherine Hahn wants to, you know, whitewash that role. Jico says, what's your thoughts on the Lego Disney Princess and Villain crossover event? If it does well, that's great. It's not for me, but if little kids and Disney Princess fans are enjoying it, that's wonderful. C Black says, Gunn is worried about the MCU 2026 schedule. Well, right now there's only one movie on it, so I don't think he's that worried about it. Oh, LP says, what about Morgan Spector as Magneto? Is Morgan Spector, he's from Gilded Age, right? I love him. Casting him in a comic book movie is a great idea. I'd put him as Brainiac, maybe. That would make me very happy. Elliot says there are rumors that Fox X-Men will get their colorful comic book accurate costumes for Doomsday. Maybe because Wolverine got it, right, for Deadpool and Wolverine. Although you would think Kevin Feige wouldn't want to waste those. And he would want to save those costumes for when he does his own X-Men. Pi, it's a little early for Kiss of the Spider-Woman and Tron Ares. Those review embargoes will probably lift the week of release. Surely for Tron, but I'm not sure about Kiss of the Spider-Woman. Well, that embargo already lifted. I have to reach out for screenings because that was at film festivals. X-Men Superfan says, what about The Bride, Ratcatcher, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman with Ivy as the new Gotham City Sirens? No, you just got to have the original three. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but let's just stick with the 3. Certainly, I mean, then you're just creating evil birds of prey. Let's see here. Loy says, thank you for making a tough evening bearable. Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm sorry you're having a tough evening. I'm glad I'm able to cheer you up a little bit. Let's see here. Oasis, I'm not going to see Toy Story again this weekend, but I shall see Downton Abbey. George Wood says, thank you for being amazing. Thank you. I appreciate you more than words can describe. What a wonderful thing to say, George. Right back at you. Thank you for supporting my channel. Keke Palmer, I really like Keke Palmer, but she doesn't have the lankiness that Yzma is supposed to have. Oh, Carl says, how about Timothy Oliphant as Magneto after Alien Earth? He certainly is rocking the look. I would agree very much so, Carl. But I don't know. I think he doesn't have the gravitas of Magneto. Pie, I haven't heard any rumors about 2 Wolverines. Let's see. Clapback Cinema says, I hope you're doing well as well. I know that you've been sick as well. You want to spread positivity and love in these scary times. That's very kind of you. Tyler wants Daniel Craig for Magneto. Let's see here. Theater Kid says, do I dare see The Long Walk this weekend or should I save my money? I really didn't care for it, although I seem to be in the vast minority on that. So maybe you want to go check it out, but I'm telling you, it's pretty bad. Steven, I did see that absolute Catwoman introduction. I'm very excited to see what they do with that character there. And she is a black woman, so that very much ties off, plays off of Eartha Kitt, her legacy. And also now Zoe Kravitz. Hazel, you finished the work day. I'm glad we could bring it home. Let's see here. My eyes are doing a little bit better. Thank you for asking, Andre. They're getting better. Oasis, I really dislike the new version of 007. I think he looks horrible. I think he does not look like 007 at all. Hey, Elvin. M92 says, hey, Grace, having a stressful month at work and grateful that you always provide entertaining content as a fun distraction. My pleasure. I'm so glad, it's really important, I feel, to be able to have something great to escape to. And I'm so honored that I can be that for some of you. Pie, I think there's a very good chance we only get the original X-Men, which I would not be happy with. Let's see here. Freddie says, I hope you cover Injustice 3 when it comes out. I sure will. For sure. Reese, thank you for asking me about my weekend, but I will tell you about it after the fact. I found that if I discuss what I'm going to do in advance, I end up jinxing it and not doing it. So I did that recently, and I was like, wow, the jinx is really effective. So I'll tell you about my weekend next week. X-Men Superman fan says, what Liza Minnelli film would you recommend that's not Cabaret? Well, let me look it up. I'm not a Liza Minnelli super fan, so I got to look up her work to remind myself. I gotta tell you, it's hard to tell. I don't think she has like a huge filmography, to be honest with you. Let me see if I can find one. I guess Arthur. Oh yeah, Dakota just said that. Arthur. That's a good one to watch. My dinner plans tonight, Chico, is a delicious salad. I get a really good Mexican salad that from this place. And that will, I want to eat something healthy before the weekend. That's right, Mystic. I'll be covering the Emmys live this Sunday. I'll be doing live tweeting, and then I'll be going live right after the show. So be sure to join me for that. David says his grandparents are going to the movies for the first time in 6 years to watch Downton Abbey. That's fantastic. Universal, I'm sure, is thrilled. They're like, woohoo. Let's see here. I'm almost done. Oh, I love you too, Danny, there. Phil says, how do you think Tron's going to do? I think it's going to tank. You can tell by the fact they didn't release a final trailer. I think they know it's going to tank. I think Jared Leto really tanked that movie. We all knew he was going to tank it. We've been saying Jared Leto was going to tank that movie since they said they were going to move forward with it. We were like, remember we talked about that. We were like, oh, can you buy Jared Leto out of that contract? You know? And they were like, no, we did it. And I'm not saying it's going to not have any money whatsoever, but I think it's going to do really poorly. Yeah, Mystic, they haven't moved one battle after another. That's really bold of them. I guess they feel it's far enough out that, maybe it'll be okay. That's a good point, Linzek. The last Tron didn't do particularly well either, nor did the first Tron. Tron's not ever been a huge IP. People like Tron, like they like the idea of Tron, but they don't actually want to go and pay to see it. The ride is amazing. Mexican Nacho says, who do you think's going to win Best Drama at the Emmys? Thanks, by the way, Brian. Thank you for that, Brian Deitch. I think it's going to be The Pit. I bet you it's a surprise. And The Pit, it'll be a real shocker if The Pit takes from Severance. But I believe it's between those two, and I think it might be The Pit. I just have a feeling. Let's see here. Elliot says in his gender and sexuality film media class, we were watching Some Like It Hot this week. I've seen it before, but my class enjoyed it, especially the jokes. Yeah, it's an incredibly timely film. Like, it's so ahead of its, in that regard, it's so ahead of its time. Two films that you watch and you're like, my God, these could be made today are Some Like It Hot and Psycho. It's incredible how far advanced those two films are. Brian says, how true do you think the rumors are about Famke Janssen reprising the Jean Grey role in Secret Wars? I haven't heard anything about it, but I hope it's true. I would be disappointed if she didn't come back. Oh, I'm over my time because I love talking to you guys so much. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. The next live stream will be Sunday evening. There will be a video tomorrow and then Movie Math, of course, on Sunday. But the next live stream will be Sunday night after the Emmys, about 15, 20 minutes after the Emmys. Maybe I'll try and do it as fast as possible. Maybe 15 minutes after the Emmys wrap. So I hope that you'll stay up and join me for that. And if not, it'll be up for you to watch when you're ready. All right, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye. Bye-bye-bye. Bye-bye.